everyone. As promised, we are back for another words and music session, the third one today, and we're going strong. I am so excited to introduce this next author who I met way back when we were at a conference in Louisville, Kentucky. And she was at a panel when I gave a paper on Virginia Woolf, way back when I was a little baby PhD student. And as one does in Louisville, Kentucky, we went out for bourbon after the panel. And by the end of the bourbon, we realized that we were not only huge Virginia Woolf fans, we were also both huge music fans. And so I was really excited when Nicole told me, hey, I'm writing a book on Virginia Woolf. And she did, and it was great. And then I said, what's the next book? And she said, I'm writing a book on American poetry and Americana music. And I'm like, ooh, I want to read that when it comes out. And read that I did, and it is wonderful. I highly recommend that for the next few days you visit our festival bookstore and pick up a copy of FemPoetiks of American Poetry and Americana Music, A Woman's Truth. This is a really cool book. It takes early American poetry and talks about how it's a discourse of women empowerment that Nicole, who is formerly known as Linda Nicole Blair, I realize not all of you just know her by her first name, she calls it FemPoetiks, and it's about female empowerment. And she takes this discourse of FemPoetiks and looks at contemporary singer-songwriters such as Blandy Carlisle and Rhiannon Giddens and Lucinda Williams. But she's not only looking at singer-songwriters that she's not met. She had the chance to interview 11 Americana singer-songwriters for this project. And two of those will later join Nicole after she talks about the book, Beth McKee and local recording artist Lynn Drury. So without further ado, I am going to bring on Linda Nicole Blair to talk about FemPoetiks in Americana music and early American poetry. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Megan. I really appreciate that very generous and wonderful introduction that you just gave. I am very excited to be here. And, as Megan just said, Beth McKee and Lynn Drury are going to be joining me in just a minute. They are two singer-songwriters that I have found their music to be nothing short of inspiring. And I'm so excited that they're here with me today. We have a lot to share, so I'm going to get started. As Megan said, I recently wrote a book entitled FemPoetiks of American Poetry and Americana Music, A Woman's Truth. It celebrates the power of the female voice in poems and songs. So my plan today is to briefly explain the origins of the book. I'm going to define what I mean by FemPoetiks and then outline the main ideas in each chapter, the last of which contains those interviews with singer-songwriters like Beth and Lynn. So after my brief talk, the three of us are going to engage in a conversation and they're going to share some of their songs. My interest in this topic came out of my childhood. I've been thinking about the origins of this for a long time. I grew up in the South in the 60s, and I was told by my father that, yes, you can accomplish anything you want. But I was also getting the message that, no, you just need to shut up and look pretty. And so, you get these conflicting messages as a young girl, and it was kind of a very confusing time to grow up. Over the years, I've learned many ways of resistance and rebellion, and I've always dreamed of a better world for women, especially. But I've realized that dreaming won't accomplish anything, that we need a plan of action. We must not only listen to the voices of those who have been speaking from the margins, but we must strive to give everyone a seat at the table. It has been frustrating for me to look around the world and see other countries have elected women to lead them, and I wonder, why not here? Why is it that a woman is not paid the same as a man in the same job? Why are women not believed when they testify to being raped and assaulted? Why these and other inequities? And for women of color, the evidence of this kind of misogyny is even more horrible. They have certainly borne the brunt of inequity, exclusion, and discrimination. The book is in part an attempt to bring everyone together on a topic. So, as a literature professor, and I have a long background in music, I thought, well, what better way to do it than through poetry and music? So, the overarching goal is to provide a rigorous framework for talking about American poetry of the past and present and Americana music, placing these genres and their artists in conversation in order to focus on the development of a feminist discourse that I call FemPoetiks. So I base this concept on a combination of three others. FemPolitic, which originated with Valerie Hudson and Patricia Lytle in their book entitled The Hillary Doctrine. Real politic, the meaning of which is a politics based in the everyday, and poetics, which refers to theories around literary discourse. So, FemPoetiks is not only the lens that I use to identify three poets, Anne Bradstreet, Phyllis Wheatley, and Emily Dickinson, as being matriarchs of Americana roots music and works, poetry works, but also functions as a tool with which to analyze those poems and song lyrics. As I researched this topic, I realized just how fruitful women have been in their creations across a wide spectrum of society, including poetry and songwriting. For instance, in 2019, Smithsonian published Women, Our Story, noting that women in music, quote, speak out about gender discrimination in the business side of the music industry and use their music to advocate for women's rights. The marriage of music and social activism certainly isn't new, but I make this point because looking at this state of affairs through the lens of FemPoetics also reveals that even though more women are making music, fewer are getting airtime on the radio or on streaming devices. Jada Watson is a name you need to remember if you want to see those statistics for yourself. In poetry, it is the same story, and VIDA, VIDA, is the place to go see the breakdown of statistics for publication of female poets in America. Ironically, the research and writing around the three poets I feature in the book is at an all time high. So we know that poetry has been and remains an important sociocultural practice. In addition to the huge volume of books and articles and other projects about Bradstreet, Wheatley, and Dickinson that have been produced over the years, students and faculty at Merrimack College have been searching for Bradstreet's original resting place, while most recently, North Andover, Massachusetts is planning to erect a statue in her honor. That's kind of cool. Wheatley's life and poetry have garnered more attention in the past few years as well. In 2017, Peter Gallison created a film entitled No More America, focused on her life, about which the president of Harvard said it was a vital project showing how, quote, the past continues to shape us in ways we should not try to erase or ignore. I couldn't agree more. In August of 2019, Eve Ewing read her poem about Wheatley for the inauguration of the 1619 Project, which was just recently published, as you probably know. Dickinson has practically become a rock star. Apple TV created a show about her life entitled Wild Nights, and in 2018, Madeline Olnick directed a comedic film entitled Wild Nights with Emily. And if not historically accurate, the film certainly strips away the mythology and reminds us of her humanity, that she was a real person. In the three central chapters of the book, the intersection of American poetry of the past and today's Americana music is represented by a pairing of Bradstreet with Brandi Carlile, Wheatley with Rhiannon Giddens, and Dickinson with Lucinda Williams. It is my argument that for the past 400 years, American women have been taking up their own pens and making their voices heard in order to share their truths. Carlile, Giddens, and Williams represent the way in which modern day musicians have carried forward this important work of telling the truth of a woman's experience. More to the point, these works represent the way in which the arts interrupt and disrupt harmful stereotypes involving sexuality, gender, racism, and classism in America, overturn and challenge those notions with the truth of a woman's experience in this country, and highlight the need for equity, diversity, and inclusion. Specifically, as Bradstreet has been a role model and mentor for generations of women, Carlisle has made it her goal to promote as many female singer songwriters as she can, giving them a hand up by hiring them as opening acts, or more recently, producing records for singer songwriters like Tanya Tucker. While Wheatley wrote poems to those in power in order to address their hypocrisy around enslavement and racism, Giddens sees music as a way to educate us on crucial issues around race, class, and gender. One writer observed that while speaking truth to power in recent political times may seem risky, Giddens does not retreat, quote, choosing to make whatever corner of the world she's in at a given time to know itself a little better. Dickinson rebelled against the patriarchy, utilizing double voicing in her poems as a way of challenging the male dominated rhetoric and social structure of her day, while Williams' songs challenge notions of a woman's role in a relationship as well as within society as a whole. Her songs often speak for those who have been forgotten, calling our attention to voices that desperately need to be heard. Americana roots music as a genre has been gaining more of a foothold in the mainstream over the past 20 or so years, introducing the authenticity of roots music to mass audiences like never before. When Carlisle won the Grammy for The Joke in 2019, it felt like the landscape of Americana music had shifted under our feet, enabling us to recognize that a desire to speak truth to power has been ongoing since Anne Bradstreet first put pen to paper. While it may be tempting to say that we no longer live in a male dominated society, it is in no way realistic to say that we have achieved equity. Although women have made progress, we struggle today to garner the same wages as our counterparts, to earn even the same level of attention for our work as men in the same fields. Our culture literally bursts at the seams with stories of women who have been taken advantage of in more ways than just sexually, and this includes the music business. It is way past time for us to fully recognize and celebrate the hardworking, talented women who write and publish both poetry and music. In showing the kinship between women artists of the past and those of the present, I am suggesting a matrilineal line of influence that has shaped and continues to shape the female perspective of living in this country. My book links modern Americana songwriters to past American poets through their compulsion, their need to speak truth to power across culture, to keep that truth in the forefront of every conversation, every political debate, and every election. I was pleased to find out that the first use of the phrase speak truth to power has been traced to a Quaker group who coined the term in a pamphlet in 1955, predating use of the phrase during the nonviolent protest of the 1960s civil rights movement. Nonviolence to fight violence is the underlying mission of those who speak truth to power. In 21st century America, this call to nonviolent protest is more relevant than ever because, as we've seen over and over again, we cannot speak truth just once. It is by necessity a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly process. Speaking can be nonverbal as well as verbal, written, sung, performed, or seen. It is a principle more than a method, right? A calling to greater integrity. Truth for Women encompasses a wide range of ideas and issues, both contemporary and historical, many of which revolve around the human rights issues like, for instance, the right of a woman to be free to fully develop her identity as a citizen within a patriarchal society that continues to deny her equal pay for equal work. Or how about the right of every one of us to love who we love without censure or fear of repercussion? Or the right of a woman to not be sexually violated just because she's a woman, but that if she is violated, the right she has to speak up and be believed. The trend in feminist studies has been to move away from woman as victim to woman as powerful. This is not to say that there aren't women who have been and continue to be victimized, but the shift in focus signals the way in which women are leading the way to a more powerful sense of self and way of being. The poets and songwriters about whom I wrote originated from a variety of backgrounds and from different points in American history, but in their own way, each of them has stood up, reached out, and fearlessly communicated their truths. All too often, women have been discounted, underrated, or just downright ignored. I would argue that the problem in our country and the way we think of American culture is rooted in the way in which we privilege certain races, genders, and classes, to name three harmfully exclusionary practices. I would hope that most of us would recognize that we live in a fractured society, divided along lines of gender, sexuality, race, class, and every other way possible, sometimes purposefully and sometimes circumstantially. Knowing this, we can't help but join hands in the effort to make positive change. As Chimamanda Adichie has said, we should all be feminists. implying a definition of feminism that goes beyond gender to include all humans, regardless of whether we identify as male, female, non binary, transgender, gay, or straight. We should all live out the principles that give to everyone human dignity, qualities like equity, diversity, and inclusivity. Though the book primarily focuses on poets and singer songwriters who speak truth to power, it is meant for every person who has been oppressed and hidden, silenced, and ignored. Chapter 5 of the book, the interview chapter, is a gold mine. This chapter was so much fun for me to write. In this, we I've tried to give readers firsthand accounts from singer songwriters about their experiences in writing songs and what it has been like to work in the music business. I interviewed women from all walks of life, 11 of whom I was able to include in the book. I asked each woman the same set of questions designed to explore their musical identities and the ways in which creating and performing music is empowering for them. Two of those women are here with me today. So I want to hear from Beth and Lynn. I know that everyone wants to hear your stories and your music, and I'm just really excited that you guys are going to be joining me. So, where are they? Beth and Lynn.
Hey
Hey.
there.
Hi, Linda. So glad to
Okay.
be here. Nicole, Linda Nicole.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
You can call me anything. Just don't call me late to supper. Uh-huh.
But
Okay. So I
okay.
just thought, I thought that what we do is just, have a conversation like we talked about before and just kind of talk. And then, I wanted to find out, or I wanted y'all to share how you got started in music. So I'm kind of going to use those same questions that I used when I asked you the original, when I was doing the research for the book. So how you got started in music and like how you describe your musical identity and what way do you see writing and performing music as empowering and so forth and so on. So, um, I'll just ask that question and whoever wants to go first, just jump in there and start talking. So, how'd you get started?
I
Let's go for it.
go for it, Beth. Go for it, Beth.
Okay. I'm obsessing a little bit about technology, but I think, and we were having a panic moment right before we came on, but I think that we are audio safe now, and I'm leaving my microphone for the most part unmuted. Is everybody? I just want to do a check in. Y'all okay? Nobody hearing a weird echo?
No, sounds great, Beth.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle.
Yes. It's a
Okay, so
miracle.
I will. So, would you repeat the question? I'll be happy to answer.
Yes. So how did you get started in music? So like what led you there and what motivates you as a songwriter? I want people to hear the real, the story and kind of get your point of view on all this stuff.
Well, that's a very global question. I'll start with the history part, which is how I got started playing music, which
Okay.
was as a child, and was by way of a very very good piano teacher that I was lucky that my mother not only found for me but insisted that I take lessons from, and quitting was never really an option. So I knew once I started taking piano lessons that I was going to be taking piano lessons until I graduated from high school. And that just so it's music is pretty much always. And I had a sister, still have a sister, who's a few years older than me that preceded me in piano lessons, although she found another career in life. She's a medical doctor, but somehow that grounding for me and having her as an older influence to see what it's like if somebody is a little better than you, something to strive for, just kind of, or maybe it's my DNA, who knows, but I got bit with the musical bug at a pretty young age. And as soon as I learned how to read music and all this stuff, even though I was taking like lessons in classical music and in composition and, the theories of how music works, all I really wanted to do was sit down with like my sister's Joni Mitchell book and try to pick out the chords and sing the melody, and I'd just read the letter for the chord and try to, so I was playing fake books from the very beginning. And then I guess when I was a teenager, my church congregation or leaders in the church figured out the best way to have me show up for church was to hire me as the pianist. So my sister was the organist and I played the piano. And so that was my paid gig. So ever since I've been 14 years old, I've been a professional musician, we could say. So, that's another big part of, that weekly gig, having to get ready for the gig. And then
I
by
think
the
that's
time I got into high school, I got involved in musical theater, and then from there, it took me a while to land in the bars, but I found my way.
from church to the bars. I love it. I love it.
Right? Yeah, that's my chapter right there.
If you
So,
can, if you can figure out how to get out of them, just let me know.
out of churches and bars.
The bars.
Well, I think I'm finding a way to do that. Ironically, Lynn, is what my passion is now, is creating my own gigs
yeah.
in other places.
That's
if
right.
if
That's
you don't get hired for the gig you want, just make your own.
Just create it.
Yep.
Well, there's a thread of social activism for both of y'all. I'm going to get into that too. But Lynn, what about you? How'd you get into music?
Well, I was pretty late to the game because I grew up with music, in marching band and all that. And I grew up, I can remember from an early age, just picking out harmonies, to the 1970s. Music has very harmony laden music. So I remember a lot of that was I just had the ear for it. And then when I went to college, I didn't really think, you know, growing up on a farm and everything, it wasn't an option to study music. It just wasn't even in my brain. I don't know why, but I studied business and I have a degree in business. And at the end of college, I took a music class for an elective to graduate called The Enjoyment of Music. And it ended up being one of the very hardest classes I've ever had, where we just listened to music and we had to write a paper. This guy was he wrote his own textbook. And he was a composer, and he was a very much a purist. Like, he wouldn't go to a restaurant that had music playing. And he said, I mean, he was very influential for me, to the point where he gave hearing tests where he would test your like if you could tell the difference between a flat and a sharp, just easy stuff. I'll play a note and then you tell me if this note is a flat or a sharp after it, And I looked around this auditorium class and I was like, wow, nobody can hear, Like, the 5 papers that I could see, I was like, they can't hear that. I couldn't believe that they couldn't hear it. And then I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing something with music. So that sort of spurred me into moving to New Orleans. And I was about 24, 25. And because it took me forever to get a business degree, because I wasn't supposed to be doing business. But so I sat out a year and worked. And then I went back to college and finally finished my business degree. And then I got a sales job in Bay St. Louis. And then I was like, hey, I think I want to write songs and play guitar. I don't know. And then I just moved to New Orleans. And in a year, I had a gig, So I just kind of hit the ground running at that point, because I was like, if I don't do something by the time I'm 30, I'm going to be old. And so here we are, 23 years later.
That's just cool though. That's really cool. And I
Yeah.
mean, the way that I even met you guys, I've never actually met Beth in person, and one of these days I will. But I found Beth and Beth's music, and then I found Lynn's music, and then I just happened to be in Oxford to to go to the Powerhouse that night for
Yeah.
the Peach Jam. That was called Peach
That
Jam,
was
and
Peach Jam.
yeah, and I met Beth and I met Lynn. So one of these days I'm gonna have to get on a plane and fly to Orlando.
Yes, you do. You got the Swamp Sisters festival.
That's right. That's right. Um, so we kind of get the story, like how you got started, and I mean, is there do you have a particular identity, like you would say, this is my musical identity, like I fit into this category of music or this category. Because, like, I talk about Americana music, like everybody knows exactly what it is. And I don't think anybody really knows what it is, but I don't know. I'm not like the expert on that category stuff. So what do you think? Like, Beth, do you want to take that one?
Sorry.
You're muted. There you go.
I know. I was. I think Americana is just a longer word, longer spelling for other.
For what? For other? Oh.
Other.
Yeah.
And I think Lynn and I probably would love to just adopt the label other because
Okay.
most musicians and probably even more songwriters, as a rule, tend to, or I do anyway, tend to avoid labels just because while they're handy in the record store, they're limiting in the recording studio and in the writing process because
agree.
one you'll see when I play a couple of different songs today, I'm like, well, what was that? That was like this, and this sounds like that. I don't know. So I guess when I am forced to label myself, I just kind of throw the word roots out there.
Yeah.
And
that.
and roots is also other because unless all the music that we're talking about and all the music that forms, I think Americana music is based on roots music, whether it's and I consider rock and roll roots music, even though it's not the original roots. So if you've got jazz and blues and country and soul and it goes on from there, swing and bluegrass, all these different types of mostly American roots music, and it's basically all of us, especially those who live in the southeastern United States, which I would say me and Lynn are in that club. We're pulling from that pool of influences. So, whatever we come up with musically is usually our own little recipe of, soup from that hodgepodge, all the things that we've been listening to as we were growing up. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. What about you, Lynn?
Yeah, Americana is definitely a catch-all. It's kind of like if you don't fit, if your album isn't like every song sounds rock, or I've always written based on my influences, I guess. So I've always kind of written a pop song because I grew up on pop radio, and there's usually a New Orleans-y song on my albums, and it's funny that to look at them and go, oh yeah, that's the one New Orleans kind of swing number that I do. Like every album I'll have one of those. I'll have a pop song. I'll have an emotional whatever. But I kind of has started calling it Noel Americana because I think it's a little bit of funky New Orleans and a little bit of country that I grew up on, country music, kind of mixed. So it's like roots, kind of country, and blues and New Orleans and rock and roll, a little bit of that too.
So yeah, I like that other thing, Beth. I like that because I think
Yeah.
it's true. It's just kind of just, it's sort of freeing because then you don't have to fall into a category. You can do whatever you feel, like whatever you want. You can just do whatever you want, And
I remember when I released I'm sorry, when I released one of my first big solo project, which was ironically a tribute album to songwriter Bobby Charles, who wrote "Walking to New Orleans," "A See You Later, Alligator." I don't know why I love you, but I do. I call him the the Louisiana song laureate. He's kind of Louisiana's favorite son songwriter. And his songs are that way too. Like one song can sound like "Walking to New Orleans," and one song sounds funky. But when I released that album, I was inquiring with the gods of Americana in Nashville, and seeing about if I wanted to do some radio promotion or whatever. And at that time, and granted, that was 2010, so that's been 11 years ago. The message that I got back was, "This is not Americana," because it had horns in it. and some of it
Oh,
was funky. No, this is not Americana. Mm-mm. And then I sent it to like some of the blues. So I'm like, okay, well, I sent it to a couple of blues. I sent, well, specifically to Alligator Records, and Bruce Iglauer to listen to it. And he came back and he was like, I really like this, but I don't know why you sent it to me because it's not blues. I'm like, okay, I'm not blues. I'm not Americana. Whatever. So at that point, I just chunked it and started just doing whatever I like. And I'm right with you, Lynn. On all my albums, you can see, oh, that's the country sounding.
yeah.
There's the ballad.
Yeah.
There's the slightly mambo. There's the
Yeah. Isn't that
And
funny?
now there's one the sort of Stevie Wonder track, or the Sly and the Family Stone track.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
Americana's
love Sly and the Family Stone, man. I grew up with those
that's
guys.
right.
Oh,
It's our roots, so we'll call it Sly and the Family Stone is now stamped
yeah.
as roots music.
But they've definitely changed their tune now because you have Sturgill Simpson who had a whole horn section in his
Exactly.
I think it's I think
And then
it's
Lily
just
Lewis just came out with her CD, The
I
American
love
Heart, or
Lily.
American Heart, or Americana. Yeah, it's just, yeah. So I think Lily would be right in there with y'all.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I love her.
Just totally other, man. Just other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would change the title of my book to Other.
Other.
Get that Americana thing out of there.
No,
Um,
it's a good, and it's been a great movement because it
it's a
did
good place to start. We don't have to
absolutely. And if you
stop
got to
there,
have a
right?
label,
Do
that
what
one
now?
works. I said, and if
Right.
you've got to have a label, that one works.
It
It
does
kind of
sort of it sort of does harken that nostalgic sort of
Yeah.
rootsy like of this land, like the way it sounds.
Yeah.
It's better than folk
Yeah.
because
It's
there's
sort of
always a folk.
inclusive
I always
enough.
put some folky stuff on there. People used to call me folky, and I'm like, I hate that title. And then time marches on, and you're like, well, folk is great.
Okay.
Folk is great.
Folk is great.
I'm-
Like,
I'm
why was
shooting
I?
for folk.
Yeah.
We're all folk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're the folk. That means the folk like it. Okay, good.
So what about okay. So I want to get through a couple more of these questions, and then I want to hear y'all's music. But I just want to ask a couple more questions. So like as far as your influences, like who have been some women, singer songwriters or musicians or whatever that have influenced y'all's work? Just like women writers, women performers. Anybody?
I'll jump
Okay.
in. And first, I'll say that my peers are some of my best influences, and that includes and especially means Lynn Drury, because I'm quite influenced by we've played gigs together
Yeah.
and
I love it.
done some small songwriting attempts together, and
love it.
I love her style. I love how singable her songs are,
Yeah.
how easy they are to process and learn, to absorb.
Thank you.
And they sound great. They sound like hits, and there is that poppy element, which I love too.
Yeah.
Because I'm a child of the 70s, and I like poppy, catchy sounding music with lots of harmonies and
Yeah.
horns sometimes. Doggone it!
And
But
why not?
I'm gonna have an album. The album I'm working on now has horns and pedal steel. So if anybody's got a problem, they can just go to the next song. So,
I love that combination. That's going to be awesome.
That's
well,
awesome.
but as far as the big idols, are other people that I consider influences. One of my biggest is Laura Nero.
Oh yeah, me too. I love
There we
her.
are in the 70s again, but
Mhm.
I just think her songwriting and her
Yeah.
style, I mean, those songs are just amazing.
Yeah.
So, and of course, Lucinda, we all idolize
Oh, yeah.
Lucinda
The Queen.
and Joan Baez in the
Yeah.
folk department, and
Yeah.
there are plenty more. So I'll let Lynn jump in with hers because I'm.
Hey,
Oh man, Beth, thank you so much. Well, obviously Beth has a voice and amazing, like just
Oof.
cuts you to your soul. And I love your voice. I love your songs as well.
Uh-huh.
And it's
Mhm.
always a joy to play with Beth. Like we did a duo that was amazing. And But otherwise, I guess, I think in terms of I don't know, like I just listening to Dolly Parton today, and
Oh,
it's like I
yeah.
really love her. I like,
Yeah.
even when I was a kid and I was watching her on TV, I just remember this one thing that she did that was kind of, she's like, I call my style one part classy and one part trashy. And I just thought, like, she was just so cool, like she was able to ride that line, I guess, of being sexy, and like she just had her stuff together, like I like her as far as a personality, and like and a writer. Oh my God, she's amazing. But otherwise, of course, I'm a big Lucinda fan.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody else except for like all of the country women that I grew up listening to, like Lynn Anderson and
Yeah.
Loretta Lynn, and um oh, Linda Ronstadt. I loved
Oh,
her.
yeah.
Like, right? There's so many.
I
Cheryl
know.
Crow was even an influence.
Oh,
Ani DeFranco was a big influence to me,
oh
which
yeah.
the irreverent part, when I was first learning guitar, I learned a lot of Ani DeFranco songs.
Mm-hmm.
And Patty Rothberg, nobody knows her, but I freaking loved that first record she did. It's
I don't know
you
who
go
that
back and
is.
she had that song, Between the One and the Nine.
I don't know
Between
that one. I'm gonna have to
she
look her
had
up.
she had a bunch of radio hits in the 90s, like mid
Oh, cool.
90s. I think mid 90s to late 90s. And that album, the one album, it's just rock, but it's very well written kind of pop songs. And yeah,
Well, now
and then everybody forgot about her. So I don't know.
you just mentioned radio, women on the radio. I want to ask you this one question, and then I'm gonna hear music. But so get ready. But anyway, so like, what do y'all think about women being on the radio right now? Are women being represented, do y'all think? Well, I mean, I see, I've done some research and stuff, and I mean, it's kind of like you kind of have to stay on top of the research because it's always changing. But Jada Watson's, boy, I mean, her stats on this stuff is you know tells a story that women are just not being represented well at all on the radio.
No.
And I know people are like, well, the radio, that's kind of yesterday. But, I've heard from other people that, especially for country music, if you're not on the radio, people just don't know who you are. And so
It's
that's a
true.
huge thing. But anyway, so y'all talk about that a little bit, like women being represented in the media, whatever, radio, Spotify, whatever.
Well,
What do y'all
I do what Beth does. When y'all were talking about what I read in the book was yeah, every time you see a lineup for a festival, you're like, there's one woman, or a big bill, at the big club, there's one maybe woman, but a lot of times there's no
Maybe.
women. Maybe. And there's that one, and then like, I mean, there's case in point, there's a festival local this weekend, and I look at the lineup and I'm just like, yeah, it's all your bros and your friends, and there's one woman. That's it, you know?
Yeah.
But I do the same thing. I go down the list and I look, and also this struck me. I was listening to a streaming site. I can't remember which streaming site it was. It was one of the Roku, like this, my friend in Nashville, and he's listening to Honky Tonk. And he let me stay at his house. He and his wife, they're great. And I was up there doing it. This was a couple of years ago or 3. And gotta count. I can't. The pandemic just throws us off a whole. Anyway, so I'm listening. So I'm at his house all day. They're both at work, and I'm listening to this thing all day of Honky Tonk radio, and it went for 8 hours, and there was never a woman that came up on
No,
this Honky
no.
Tonk streaming, like regular, like satellite,
Oh
and
my gosh.
and I thought, there's got to be a woman honky tonk singer. Hello, Wanda Jackson.
Right.
Where are the great? Where are these people? Why aren't they? Why is the algorithm doing that? And
Oh my gosh.
okay. I'll just hand it over. It's like crazy. It was
Right.
crazy.
Yes,
I don't.
and I agree. I agree, Lynn. I think that part of that is for the same reason that there are not as many women CEOs, or there is not as many everything women everything. It's just because it's just, we're kind of slow getting the chug.
Yeah. Yeah.
I contribute an hour each week to a syndicated blues radio show called Smokestack Lightning. And when I took the gig, I said, I'm going to do this because I bet you they're not playing any women or much, and I'm going to try to fix that. And so I'm coming in with that in mind and just searching through their server, because I got to have the music, just searching through their server and, even my music collection or wherever I can grab music from to air. I'm realizing it's not there on the level that, the ratio of women who are doing it to men who are doing it is still much lower. And,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, you think if you just, now I'm at the point where you think if you just get older, then they have to respect you at some point. And
well, what I'm saying is it's not there. You
Let me
you
blow
got to
that
find it.
mythology right out of the water for you. But yeah, one would hope.
One would hope.
One would
right?
hope. There you have it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a constant struggle, and I think it's important. The awareness is step one.
Yeah.
And being aware of it of ourselves and, calling it to other people's attention. I had to, I'm trying to remember. Oh, Alice in Wonderland, right? Alice Wonderland, blues artist from Austin.
Alice in Wonderland. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I saw that she had an album come out, and I'm like, well, there it is. It's blues, even though I do like a lot of other for my little
Isn't there
hour.
a Carolyn Wonderland too, though?
That's what I meant. Carolyn Wonderland.
Wonderland.
Carolyn Wonderland. Thank you, Lynn. I knew you know. I love her. And she has a new album. So
great.
we're quoting her new album. That's my mea culpa for getting the name wrong, because I'm just hyped up about Alice. Anyway, so yeah, I had to request. I'm like, do we have the new Carolyn Wonderland album? So I can spin one of those. And sure enough, they came up with it, and they added it to the server.
Okay.
So, it's just a kind of being aware. And I think it's the same thing for BIPOC. I think, it's a blues show. I should be able to, get all kinds of people in there.
Right.
But it's always a task that you have to be mindful of and take on. And I think the more of us that do that, the more of us that, if there are those who request songs from radio stations or on Spotify, seek out those, find women artists and favorite and like them. So that'll boost their role in the whatever sine curve that comes along.
Absolutely.
I think y'all are so right. I mean, I think that a lot of this is in the hands of it's in our hands in some ways, because we have to keep pushing. We have to keep pushing and insisting and making change. It's so inspiring to listen to y'all. It's so inspiring, and I just am so excited about this conversation. Now I want to hear music. So I get to wave my wand, and we're gonna have music now. So which one of y'all wants to? Because I know I got 2 songs from Lynn, and I got 3 or 4 songs from Beth, and I don't want to dictate who goes first and what y'all sing. It's completely up to y'all.
We're gonna do rock paper
scissors. Rock paper scissors.
Wait. Okay.
Neat.
One.
Ready?
Oh.
So scissors cuts paper. So I get to say. So I say you go first. Is that how that works?
All right. I don't have any effects on this. Sorry. I'll play Saint Tammany first. This was a song I did
I love that song.
for the Nuka Museum's Persister exhibition. All the way from Saint Tammany, beating your drums, captivity. But you would not take the good from me. can watch me break free. You can watch me break free. Mama died when I was just a little girl. Daddy's still a prisoner of time. Uncle's going in again, yeah. Sister went down for 10. I became a mother of 2. Steady, steady and true. I am more than what you see, what you've been taught to believe. I am just a woman breaking free. Whoa, you just watch me. You can watch me break free. You can watch me break free. I'm gonna hold my babies tight tonight. Give them all the love that I know is right. Even though their mama's gone, I'll hold them tight, just like a drum, steady, strong. Steady, steady and strong. I am more than what you see, what you've been taught to believe. I am just a woman breaking free. Whoa, you just watch me. You can watch me break free. You can watch me break free. You can watch me break free. You can watch me break free.
Yay!
Ha,
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Does it sound okay?
Man.
I didn't really.
Yeah,
Okay.
it sounded great. I love that song. Do you want
I
to
do
say just a
too.
few words about it before we hear from
So
Beth?
that song is on the new album, and the new album is called Dancing in the Kitchen, and I charted for the first time on Americana radio.
Yes.
And it's been on the Americana charts now for 5 weeks, and we're up to 136, up from 170.
That's great.
And that song I was commissioned by the Persister and Nuka Museum exhibition, and they commissioned me to write that song for Tawanda Major's story. And so it was a late ad. I had been assigned another song for another woman, and I had 3 or 4 months to, meet with her and gather info and talk to her and have lunch and blah blah blah. So I had all that time to write that song, and then I think it was 2 weeks before the deadline, they said somebody dropped out, and I listened to her transcript. I didn't even get to meet Tawanda Major, and I still want to share the song with her, and I need to do that.
Oh,
That's got to be on my list to. But it just sort of came out. Wasn't one of those things. I felt how oppressed, like she was on the right path, but she just was surrounded. Her whole family had been in and out of jail, and her dad was in 40 years in jail, and she just, her uncle borrows a truck and commits a crime, and she gets snagged into the system, and it can't get out of the system, having to do these classes and rehabilitation and pay all this money, where you just get sucked in and you just can't get out of it. It's so hard, for certain people. mainly black and brown people to
Yeah.
get unsnagged out of the system that just wants your money. And so I really felt it. And
Yeah.
anyway, so that song came out pretty well. It was hard to write, but pretty much was the more inspiring for me, and it inspires other people when I play it, because you can watch me break free for all women. It really connects with people. Everybody makes them cry, and yeah. So I'm very fortunate to have written that song. So
Absolutely. It's such a great song. And it said, so it speaks so powerfully to that theme, the of
yeah,
breaking, like you said, of breaking free and
breaking
really,
out of convention, breaking out
right?
of yeah.
Yeah, very, very good. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank
Um,
you.
so Beth,
Yes.
you're next.
Okay. Can y'all hear my keyboard all right? Do you hear it?
Yeah,
Does
sounds
it
great.
sound
Oh,
balanced? Because I kind of made some changes.
It sounds good.
Okay, good. All right, just checking. Playing my trusty whirly here. So I was thinking I'll do one for you. That one of the ones that you had requested, Nicole, from my album Dream. No, this one is from my album Sugarcane Revival, and
Which
it's
one is
called
this?
"Break Me Down."
Oh, yeah.
All right, so this is kind of my little one. This one filled the R&B slot on that album. Opened all my windows, tore down all the curtains, gotta shed a light on just who it is I'm serving. I am full of questions, searching for solutions, believing I can make it if I can find my confidence. Nobody said it's easy to fight against the current. I chose this direction. I'll take on the consequences. Rolling up the river of doubt, I'm about to wear myself out. Weight on my mind haunts me all the time, but it ain't gonna break me down. I have got a feeling, call it intuition. I will make some changes, improve on my condition, amping up my attitude, and asking for permission. Rolling up the river of doubt, I'm about to wear myself out. Weight on my mind haunts me all the time, but it ain't gonna break me down. It ain't gonna break me down. Don't let me drown in this water. Don't wanna struggle anymore. Throw me a line to hold on to and make my way to the shore. Rolling up the river of doubt, I'm about to wear myself out. Weight on my mind haunts me all the time, but it ain't gonna break me down. Whoa, ain't gonna break me down. No, ain't gonna break me down.
great.
Oh, thanks.
So what do you want to talk about that one just for a minute or two? And
Well, sure.
yeah, tell us about that
It's
one.
kind of, I guess, if a female songwriter is writing a song, it's going to be from a female's perspective. But not necessarily in my case. I do sometimes write songs from male perspectives too.
Just for fun.
Why not? I have one song that's from Napoleon Bonaparte's perspective.
I
So
Oh,
we're
that's
gonna-
right.
So, but this one I think does kind of speak to the struggle, which is just like, and my response, I think a lot of our response to the struggle, which is like, I'm not gonna let it steer me from my path. Things may be more difficult, things may be a little more overwhelming sometimes, and you may feel left out. Like when you look at that festival bill and there's like one female and nobody called you. And so, the whole idea is just like, what happens is, sometimes external situations weigh on the soul of the fragile creative person, and we think there's something wrong with us. Like, why didn't I get asked to do that? Or why are they not spinning my songs more on the radio? Or why not? Blah, blah. It must be because I suck. Maybe that's it. And so, it's just easy to go there. And so I tend sometimes to write songs to self-talk, like, come on, you can do this. Don't let it break you down. Just don't go down that river of doubt. You'll drown in a whirlpool and it's not going to do you any good. So
That's right.
I guess that's kind of what that song does for me among some of my other songs. But yeah.
It's very
and
inspirational.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you
Both of those songs are just so strong and so inspirational. Y'all want to share another one? We have time. You want to share another song, Lynn? Do you want to do another one?
Well, sure.
Yes.
Do you want me to share the one that I sent you, or does
You
it
can
matter?
share whatever you want. You are completely free to do whatever you want.
My guitar sounds funny. I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. It does on my end, but nothing I can do about it. Sounds electrical and not acoustic. Oh, I guess I could have. Never mind. Anyway,
Sounds
thank
great.
you so much, by the way, Nicole. Thank you so much for including me, and I feel so honored to be in the part of the book just because of speaking truth to power. And like, I've tried to never waver and tried to just keep going, just, I think Beth too, like we just in a sea of like, because you see women performers just drop off, and you never see them again, or you wonder what happened to them. And I think the pressure is really, it's not easy. It's not easy to grow older in the music business.
That's right.
Really not. And I mean, we're so young still, but anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but I've always felt that it's important to play. And I think this was also, Beth had mentioned this in the book, or someone, about playing for girls, like sometimes I'll just be playing and it'll be a family restaurant or something, and there'll be a family, and you see the kids are so, what's the word I'm looking for? They're so innocent, but they're just like, oh my God, they are just dumbfounded, and kids will just stare at you and just taking it all in, and I've had that happen to me a few times where, little kids will just sit in front of me and just like sit down and just stare at me for an hour. It's the most beautiful thing in the world, and it gives me hope. Little boys and little girls. I mean, but anyway, I'll do this one. This is called Dancing in the Kitchen. I had a point there, but I don't. Anyway, this is a pop song. Used to fall in love a lot. Now I just falling apart. I used to break a lot of hearts, yeah. Now I don't even want to start. I used to run around. I used to stay out all night while you was running me down. Said I just wasn't your type. Well, whoa, they saw me coming. Yeah, they saw me coming. Whoa, they saw me coming. Wherever you go, don't you worry about me. I'll be playing that rock and roll with a funky little beat. I'll be dancing in the kitchen. Oh, I'll be stirring something up. All that time that you was wishing you could call me up, and you can. Whoa, I come running. Yeah, I come running. Oh, I come running. Oh. I might wake up tomorrow, you'll be gone. I can't worry about that now while I'm singing this song. I'll be dancing in the kitchen. I'll be stirring something up. All that time that you was wishing you could call me up, and you can. Oh, I come a running. Yeah, I come a running. Oh, I come a running. I come a running. Yeah, I come a running. Oh, I come a running. You can. Yeah.
Bravo!
Yeah.
Bravo!
I
Oh,
love it so much. Thank you.
thank you so much.
That was great. And by the way, Beth is going to do another song, but I also want to tell you, the honor is all mine. I was honored that you guys would even want to be part of this. And so thank you so much for sharing your lives with me and sharing so much of your story with me and for being part of this book. Okay, Beth,
Thank you.
let's hear another song from you.
And we're very grateful to you on both counts for including us in your wonderful book and amplifying our voices.
Oh, of course.
And for having us here today. So I think
Absolutely.
can speak for Lynn.
I'm just going to get on a plane and I'm just going to bring my whole family to, New Orleans and go to Orlando, and we're just going to have a big old party. Okay. Let's
That
hear
sounds
from
like
you,
a
Beth.
I'm for that.
Okay, here's one from my latest release, which is Dreamwood Acres, and it's called Resurrection Mary, which was pulled from an urban myth about a female hitchhiker ghost outside the city of Chicago from the 1920s. One cold Chicago night, so the story goes, she left the O. Henry Ballroom, walking home alone. They found her lying peacefully on the wrong side of the road, straight to resurrection. Wasn't too far to go. On the highway to justice, where her vision roams, always in a party dress and a gossamer coat. She'll put her hand out, beckoning dancing all night long at the feet of Jesus in the shadows till dawn. So pretty and young, wide-eyed and tough, till everything went wrong. Resurrection Mary, why don't you come on home? Many long years we mourned her father and I. Now we all share the family plot, and she slips out every night. Resurrection Mary, dancing all night long at the feet of Jesus in the shadows till dawn. So pretty and young, wide-eyed and tough, till everything went wrong. Resurrection Mary, why don't you come on home? Come on home. Hey, come on home. Resurrection Mary, baby, come on home.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Beautiful. That's such
Thank
great
you.
imagery in that song. I love that.
So I'm kind of getting the feeling that we're running out of time. Is that y'all's feeling that we're at the end?
Yes, it's
I'm
it's
getting a-
time, but it's been a delight.
I
It has been
know.
wonderful.
I know. I feel so blessed that you guys were willing to be part of this, and that you came and you shared so much. I really appreciate it, and I thank Megan so much for inviting us and for making us part of the festival. And I guess that's
We
that's
did have
all, right?
one question. I don't know
Oh,
if we want to do a short answer here. Which
oh,
comes
okay.
first, the lyrics or the music?
Oh,
And
great question, Kelly. So,
so I'll just say
Yes.
mainly the lyrics come to me first, I think, but with the melody in it. So I pick up my guitar and I try to find the chords. And I think Beth is totally different. You write the lyrics without the music, and then you sort of work it out that way.
Sometimes I try it every
Mm.
different way possible. I do.
Right. I try to have I think this I feel like I know I'm going to sound whatever, but it does. A lot of writers say this. It will come from the sky. It comes from a God. It comes from, it's like a
You just got to catch it.
You just got to catch it. So
yeah.
I feel like the hooks and the main melody of things have to be just given to me from somewhere else, and then I'll work out the verses and everything else. But that's kind of how I do it. I don't like, I'll have the meat of it, and then I'll just try to work all everything into there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I just before we go, I do want to thank everyone who came. I can't see the audience, but I've seen some of the comments. I really appreciate the audience members so much, and y'all
Thank y'all
have
so
no
much.
idea how much it means to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, One Book One.
Yay! Thank you, Megan.
Thank you all. And I'm so glad that you mentioned Dolly Parton, because fun fact, when I was thinking about, do I really want to, pursue this community literacy thing as a full-time gig? That night when I was really on the fence, I saw Dolly Parton talking about the Imagination Library, and it pushed me over. So
Good.
the question I ask a lot when we're thinking about things for One Book One New Orleans is, what would Dolly do?
That's right.
So
She
thank
would
you.
shine on, is what she would do.
So if you
Shine
don't know
on.
about One Book One New Orleans and you want to learn more, you can go to onebookonenola.org. But I'm not going to keep you guys here because we heard about FemPoetiks just now. And in 18 minutes, we will be back for some poetry. I will
Yay.
see you in 18 minutes. Have a good one, y'all.